Doc Rivers is back. Yo, he got 9 losses, more like 19, right? Like, you can't get rid of this guy. If he loses 3-1 leads, don't matter. He got a job. Teams, the players get mad. They want to get traded. Don't matter. He got a job. It don't matter. At the end of the day, the numbers speak. He's a top 15 coach of all time. But how y'all feel about this Griffin getting canned when the Milwaukee Bucks are 30-13, which is the same record as the number 1 team in the West, 30-13, and their coach got fired. So how do y'all, Henny, how do you feel about that? What's your thought process?
Last time a coach got fired in January with a winning record was David Blatt of the Cleveland Cavaliers. It was his first half a year, and they went on and won a championship. Mm-hmm. And ironically, the Bucks are in the same situation, and I don't think they're gonna win a championship. Doc Rivers is a horrible playoff coach. Yeah, he's not good at all. He's horrible. If you look at his numbers in the playoffs, he's really, really bad. I believe they said it was 111 to 104. He's won 1 championship in 100. I'm not even gonna do what's that?
200 games.
15. Yeah, 215 games.
Playoff games.
Oh yeah, this is a playoff stat. I got the numbers right here. Perfect. He's 16-33 when he has 3 wins in a 7-game series. Mm-hmm. He's lost 32 closeout games. That's an NBA record, by the way. He's lost 7 series when he's leading 3-2. That's an NBA record, by the way. He's lost 10 game 7s. That's an NBA record, by the way. And he lost 12 series where he's holding the series lead. Oh, that's an NBA record, by the way. So him getting this team doesn't really matter. He's a horrible playoff coach, and I love to see your rebuttal about that. Numbers don't lie, by the way.
Okay, so I'm just gonna ask you then. I don't even gotta ask you. That means you feel like this was a terrible move for Milwaukee.
Oh, absolutely. This wasn't an upgrade. Depending on how they felt about their coach, I felt they had a better chance with him than Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers just keeps getting the job and keeps proving nothing. He keeps getting all these stars and doing nothing. He had 1 championship. This is going to be the 22nd year of him being an NBA coach, and he's won Coach of the Year once. And you know how many Hall of Famers he played with? I don't know if you guys are historians in the chat, but he's had Tracy McGrady and Grant Hill on his team. Those guys are Hall of Famers, by the way.
They weren't playing at the same time. There's context.
He still had him on. Did he still have him on the team? Because I could talk about other players he had on.
They were on the roster, but they didn't play.
Okay, So he's had Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen, CP3, Blake Griffin. Now Giannis, Dame.
I mean, to his defense, why? To his defense, he won with that team. He won with that Celtics team. They won a championship.
One.
I mean, one is more than a lot of people get. Yeah. And they were at the end of honestly, like,
they were all out of their prime.
They were all out of their prime, right? So, you know, I mean, for him to squeeze out one, for him to squeeze out one and then lose to Kobe right after in Game 7, I'm not mad at that.
Right.
So you giving him grace?
For sure. I think Doc Rivers is a great coach. I mean,
being up 3-2, losing 7 times.
I think
NBA record. That doesn't mean anything.
It does. It means something, but there's context, right? Context is king. People say content is king. I say context is king. It's important to understand what the story is, what's going on around the situation, right? So if it's just black and white, like, oh man, this guy's just not good, he wouldn't continue to keep getting resurrected every single time. This guy's like Lazarus. This guy goes to just raise up every single time. You think he's done. The situation, what happened with him with 76ers, is it really his fault? Really? That James Harden just mailed it in? James Harden is a career playoff stinker, right? And he mailed it in, and they lost. Was that his
Let's
fault?
let's not forget about
Whoa, y'all both can't be talking at the same time. Go, Chris.
Go ahead, Chris.
let's not forget Ben Simmons not shooting the ball.
Ben Simmons was terrible, and he's still terrible.
These are things that are out of Doc Rivers' control.
That's 1 second. That's not why they lost.
No, it's not. It's why they lost was because
and James Harden actually won them a game as well.
Yeah, he lost them too. And he lost them too. The last game 6 and game 7, he lost them.
And Ben Simmons wasn't playing well that series, if I remember correctly.
Ben Simmons hasn't played well since.
He's playing like Ben Simmons.
No, Ben Simmons hasn't been playing like Ben Simmons since they traded Jimmy Butler was there. That was the last time we seen Ben Simmons. Ever since then, it's been missing Ben 10 on every milk carton from New Jersey to Philly to Brooklyn to Florida, everywhere. Can't find him. Actually,
I'm sure Chris Paul faced some injuries during that stint with the Clippers.
Chris Paul was never
down the stretch of those playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Never healthy.
Hamstring injuries, hand injuries.
Blake Griffin in the year
during that series.
Say that again.
During those series, it wasn't injuries.
Yes, it was.
Some, but it was a lot of who's the guy on that team.
The guy on that team was
the coach just didn't. Doc Rivers as the coach should have established that.
I mean, the guy on the team was CP3, and Blake was not okay with that, which is why they kept having issues. This is why every time you see them talk about the Clippers, like those players, they always say, "Oh, we had internal issues, blah blah blah." They want to kind of blame CP and Doc for whatever reason, but I mean, it doesn't really. It's context, you know what I'm saying? If CP doesn't get hurt every single year, Doc Rivers probably got a chip. CP probably gets a chip. If James, the Rockets that year when they lost 3-1 to the Rockets, when Josh Smith came in the game and lit them up. We don't remember that name. Like, we don't remember who Josh Smith is. But when Josh Smith came into the game and lit them up, I think that was Doc Rivers. I'll put that on Doc Rivers for sure. But every other situation is context. It's the situations why, the team just don't win.
It's easy to win regular season when you have more than one superstar on your team most of the time. And he doesn't get the job done. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I think Doc Rivers could help Milwaukee have an identity. I feel like that's what they were struggling with.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what led to the Adrian Griffin firing. I feel like the Bucks were just relying on their talent, which was they have 2 top talents in the NBA, and that's what they were leaning on to get by with wins. Right? We seen them struggle against certain teams like Indiana. Indiana has their number this year. Right, and it's because Milwaukee's still struggling on defense, right? So I think Doc Rivers could come in and help with building identity on defense and also on the offensive side too. He can help Dame and Giannis also be more comfortable. Doc Rivers is one of the best coaches, especially coming out of timeouts when it comes to execution. So honestly, I like the move as well. I feel like it brings in a veteran coach, someone who's been there before, been to the playoffs. And I feel like this opportunity just will help elevate Milwaukee to their next level and help understand each other better and help work together better. He brought in the Celtics in 1 year. Remember, they won their chip, I think, his first year. Their first year together. Their first year together, he brought those guys together and won a championship. He can help them build the camaraderie, the chemistry, and helping guys understand their roles and their responsibilities on the offensive and defensive ends. So I definitely like the Doc Rivers pickup. I like the hiring of Doc Rivers personally.
I don't believe him.
Henny doesn't believe in him. Chris is here for it. I'm here for it too. What I'm not here for is how the Milwaukee Bucks organization just been flip-flopping and making a huge mess out of this situation. Makes me nervous as a Damian Lillard fan that he's probably never going to get a championship because he went from one ish show to another ish show, right? Sugar Honey Iced Tea is a kid show. I'm not gonna say the words, but you know what I'm saying. He went from out of the fire pan into the fire, right? So it's like, what's happening for you to hire a coach, right? And I mean, this kind of happened with David Blatt as well. You hire a coach. What was when they hired Adrian Griffin? What was the point? What was the point of hiring him? Did they not believe that they were going to go to the championship? Did they not believe that this was a championship team? Did that all change when Damian Lillard was traded? Like,
yeah, definitely. Griffin is a defensive-minded coach, and they got rid of a defender, top 10, top 5, whatever defender at the guard position, and brought in a top 10 offensive guard. So he's not used to the defensive schemes that maybe someone who doesn't have to work as hard on offense are used to. So I think that was the downfall of that. I'm not blaming Dame, because he's great enough. You have to use him to what he's good at, and I don't think Griffin was able to bring that in as well. And I also just think that Griffin was just trying to get rid of Thanasis, in my opinion. He was just trying to get rid of Thanasis, and Giannis couldn't take it, and he just got rid of him. That's just my opinion. That's my expert opinion. Thanasis was on the trading block. Giannis took it into his own hands. That's what I think.
I wouldn't be shocked either.
I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked. But I mean, so they didn't think this was a championship team when they had Jrue Holiday, they had Grayson Allen, Chris Middleton coming back, Giannis. They didn't think that was a championship team. Brook Lopez signed back. You didn't think that was a championship team? You know what I mean?
If you want to be, if you want to be honest, Jimmy Butler shook up the East.
Jimmy Butler did shake up the East. He did.
Shook up the East. He shook up the Eastern Conference. I mean, them not being able to get it done. He shook up Milwaukee. He shook up Boston. Like he's the reason these teams are shaking up, because these teams had these championship aspirations last year, going into the playoffs as the favorite.
Every game,
Milwaukee and Boston were the two favorites last year.
Right.
And Jimmy knocked them both off. He knocked Milwaukee off first round.
Yep. No? Yeah, first round.
Knocked Milwaukee off first round, and then he knocked off Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals.
I think it's an indictment. I think it's an indictment on an organization for you to fire Coach Bud, then hire a rookie coach, then fires him 43 games in the season when he's 30 and 13.
That's crazy.
Now I'm looking at Giannis. I'm looking at Giannis now, right? Like, I'm looking at Giannis because he's becoming that superstar who is
a little prima donna in him.
Yeah. Excuse me. Because I'm saying if you're the front office, you don't make that decision of firing your head coach, your championship head coach, without your best player's blessing, right? And then you don't hire another coach, and when their rookie coach without your best player blessing, and they had Nick Nurse. They had Nick Nurse in the fold. Nick Nurse wanted that job. They said, nah. Now look what Nick Nurse is doing. He got Doc Rivers' old team. He got Doc Rivers' old team.